and welcome to RVN TV's Entrepreneur State of Mind. My name is Krista Smolda, your host each and every Tuesday at 11:30. I've got a great guest with me today. His name is Ray Lowe, and he is, get ready for this, the luckiest guy in the world. And we're going to find out why he's the luckiest guy in the world. And maybe he didn't always feel like the luckiest guy in the world. So we're going to hear that story. He also is 75 years old, and he's a Masters All-American swimmer, a photographer, and he's doing things in his life right now that he probably never thought he would be doing. I want to welcome you to the show.
Glad to be here, Krista.
Thank you so much. So I start off my show all the time with a story about you. And how did you get to this point? You're 75 years old, and you're killing it. You're loving life. You're still working, right?
Absolutely, and I wouldn't quit for anything in the world.
So tell me your story.
Well, I had the advantage of being a financial advisor for years, and I had the opportunity to see other people and the struggles they had at retirement time. And the struggles often were not about money, they were about what to do. So I started redesigning my life when I was in my early 50s, and it took a while to get there, but I have this wonderful life right now. So I'm 75 years old. I am engaged in a business that I absolutely love with no need to quit. I have the ability to get a lot of time off. I can make some money when I want to do that, when I need to do that. I swim to stay healthy. My wife and I have traveled the world. We've been on all 7 continents. And I'm here with you. What could be better than that? Other than my wife will tell you that the reason I'm the luckiest guy in the world is because I've been married to her for 53 years.
And I would agree. And the fact that you said that, she might be the luckiest girl in the world.
Well,
okay?
I hope.
'Cause not many would say that. So you've been to 7 continents?
I have.
Okay, so I'm sure you have some really good stories. I've been to one, which is this one right here.
Well,
tell me a story about one of the continents you visited.
It's a big, big world, so get moving right away. Okay. So I think one of the most poignant stories I've ever heard or got was in Antarctica. And Antarctica is kind of a strange place. It's an expedition type of a trip. And what you do is you're on a ship and you get up early in the morning and you go out on an expedition. And there you're going out to see penguins and ice. That's all there is.
That's it.
Penguins and ice. And you come back for lunch and you take a nap, and then you go out later in the day again and do something similar. And you can do that all day because it's light 24 hours a day.
Right. Wow.
Well, on the 3rd day, one of the couples we had dinner with the night before didn't come out with us. And so I cornered them at dinner and I said, "We missed you today. Where were you?" And they said, "Well, we looked out the window this morning and we looked at the hill we had to walk up, and we didn't think we could make it up the hill." You know, that kind of floored me too. And so I didn't say anything, and a minute later they came back and said, "Well, we put off taking this trip because we felt we had to have enough money, and now we've got tons of money and we can't walk up the hill to see the penguins." So what I learned is you got to do it now. We can't wait, because as we age, we don't get healthier as much as we struggle to do that.
Now, when you had that experience with that couple, were you, I don't know when you were in Antarctica, but were you already in your business and, you know, of what you're doing now and recognizing, or was that a story that kind of prompted you to say, gosh, these people need to be doing this stuff earlier?
We had started thinking about what we wanted to do, but that certainly was a story that had a massive impact on me, because the luckiest guy in the world would never find himself in that situation, would they?
No, no.
And I think one of the things that we have to do is to be on guard about what we want in our lives and how we're going to build that life to be our life and to do what we want to do, not live somebody else's life.
So were you always this carefree, or was there a point in time where, you know, you're a financial advisor, I know they can be busy. Was there a time in your life where someone kind of opened your eyes to the possibilities and considering happiness and versus money and what you really want to do?
Well, you know, the opposite is what's really important. I had a great teacher, I thought was a great teacher in high school, and she said, "Ray, you know, you're lucky. You can be anything you want. You're growing up in America. You've got parents that are backing you." And she said, "The only thing you have to do as part of the process is to protect yourself against your weaknesses. You got to strengthen them so that you can take advantage of everything you wanted to do." And I later found out, as excited as I was about this, and this was data that started me on my career, it was probably the worst advice I ever got. Because the fact is, we can't be everything we want. We're born with a certain DNA and a certain background that's uniquely us. And I have found that when I capitalize on my strengths and when I don't worry about my weaknesses, I can perform better, I'm happier, and I'm more passionate about what I do.
So how do we discover what that is? I mean, are there ways for me to learn? I think I know what my strengths are, but are there assessments? I mean, I think you provide that to clients right now to help them understand, right?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great setup. I appreciate that. Yes, the answer is that we've done our homework, and we sat back and we said, you know, the first thing you got to do is you got to understand how you work instinctively and what your strengths really are. So we built an online course system because we wanted to be able to deliver this at a low cost, something that people could easily afford and easily experiment with. And we teach people how to discover your strengths. We teach them how to understand how they process things instinctively. We spend some time on something we call PEP. And PEP's an acronym for passion, excellence, and something called perceived value. You know, if you're not passionate about life, you're not going to be happy.
Right.
And if you can't deliver expertise, you're not going to be happy either, because you're just not going to be able to do things. But the missing piece was other people around you have to be happy with you too. And I think of all the situations you've been in, Krista, where one of those three was missing and how you felt.
It's an interesting way to look at it, because I know I went through something similar. I'm 47. I've made a lot of changes from a career perspective, a physical perspective, a personal relationship perspective recently. And I could never have done that without another external source. And it was a coach for me, but it was a very expensive coach. You know, I mean, and I could afford it at the time. I was an executive, but I know that I wish that everyone could have access to that. So are your courses a little more affordable than maybe hiring some sort of an executive coach? Because that's important.
Oh, I think, first of all, I have a coach too, and I will always have a coach, because I think it's important to be able to share your frustrations with somebody else who can get an outside perspective easily on them. But to start, you can do an awful lot online with a structured program, and that's what we tried to do here. We tried to take a very expensive process of a one-on-one coach and turn it into a series of structured lessons that you could take online. You could get a feel for what you want to do, and you can really get that thinking going. And then maybe it's time to get a coach and spend some time to develop that and really get it off the ground to get you in the life you want to be in.
Sounds good. All right, so we have to take a commercial break, okay? But when we come back, I want to talk about, you know, what are some of the signs or the triggers that people might be experiencing that if they're aware of it, it means it's time to make a change. So stay tuned, because we'll be right back with the luckiest guy in the world. Welcome back to RVN TV's Entrepreneur State of Mind. I'm here with Ray Lowe, and he is the luckiest guy in the world, and he's teaching other people how to be the luckiest guy in the world and the luckiest girl in the world, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, there's room for a lot of us. I'd like to think I am the luckiest guy in the world. But guess what? There's room for a lot of lucky guys and girls in this world, because it's a state of mind. It's not a title. It's how you feel about things when you start to make progress towards reaching those goals.
Imagine if everybody was walking around feeling like the luckiest person in the world. Wouldn't it be a wonderful place to live?
Absolutely.
Everyone would
And
be
we know
smiling.
that's not true, right?
It's not true. It's not true. So, you know, I personally, I told you I had a story where I was feeling stuck, sort of, and I see this happening with a lot of people. But do you have triggers that you that let you know someone needs a change, or are there triggers that people can identify with to say, you know what, it's time to do something different, or it's time to talk to Ray or take a course?
Well, you know, the Gallup Poll people came up with a really interesting statistic a couple of years ago, and they said 70% of Americans, quote, hate their stupid jobs. Now, I looked at that and I said, that's appalling. Nobody can be that unhappy for that long. But as you poll people, you find out that it's closer to true than not being true. And the other problem is that the 30% that do love their jobs are going to find that certain triggers change that. Now, I think you found that. So why were you prompted to change your life?
Well, my career was taking up a lot of my time. I was overwhelmed. I certainly was not fulfilled in my job. I think I got to a point where I thought, I'm so tired of trying to convince these people that they should do it this way. I want to go somewhere and do my own thing. You know,
Okay.
where sometimes you start to feel smarter than your boss, right? And I was in a very large corporation, so trying to infect change in such a large corporation took so long. So I knew that I wanted to be probably in a smaller company or my own boss. I also wasn't having fun. So I enjoyed, you know, water cooler talk, and you know, the part I loved most about my job was planning a baby shower for someone, or you know, planning a going away party. So I was really starving for fun. So I was not fulfilled. I was not having fun. I was making money though.
And you were bored.
Oh yeah, I was bored.
Okay.
Absolutely, I was bored. I did not want to do what I was doing. I said, oh God, I got to do this again for 8 hours.
So let's look at a couple of things that affect a whole lot of people. And I remember, has anybody or have you ever had the situation where a new person joined your team and all of a sudden the chemistry of your team that was really wonderful just got destroyed? And it's because there was a caustic feeling now all of a sudden invading your life space? And I remember years ago when I was given a new secretary, who was a very efficient young lady, by the way. She was really good at what she did, but I just got to the point I didn't want to come in the office in the morning because there was this feeling of not being comfortable, not wanting to be there anymore. And I think that happens to a lot of people. How many people have had a boss that has changed? You know, all of a sudden you're there, you know, you're happy with your boss, you're in sync, everything works really well, and the next day you got somebody new, and they want you to do things differently than you were doing. This is one of the reasons that we stress instincts when we get into our courses and we get people to understand what happens, because how you process things, how you react to things is different than other people do. And when suddenly somebody is trying to impose something on you that is not comfortable to you, you have to figure out how you're going to deal with it.
You know, my company, at the very end, I already wasn't liking it, but at the very end it got taken over. It was merging, but it really wasn't a merge. It was a takeover. My
Okay.
comp plan changed. The way I was doing business changed. So that was definitely, I think that was the final thing for me that made me leave, you know, leave my job. Do you find that it's a certain age, you know, is it between a certain age where people are more likely to start to have these feelings of like, I need to do something differently?
Well, I think you have to have confidence. Here's the problem that we run into. If you think about this, we get out of high school or college and we go get a job, right? And what's the job we usually take? It's one that's kind of interesting, but it's usually the one that's going to pay us the most,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then what happens? You get promoted, right? All right? You get promoted, and all of a sudden you're making more money. And what happens is the change when you get promoted changes the chemistry of what you do. And one of the things that the Gallup Poll people came back with is they said a very, very large percentage of managers are no longer doing the things they think they're good at. We had this thing when I went to business school, the Peter Principle. Okay, man will be promoted to the level of his incompetence. Well, think about it. What happens? You're good at doing something, you get promoted. You're good at doing something, you get promoted. When do you stop getting promoted?
When you're not good at
When
it.
you're not good at it
And
anymore.
that's when you get let go.
And that's when you get let go, okay? So one of the things that we found is whether you're happy in your job or whether you're not happy in your job, if you do some homework, if you try and understand what is it that makes you happy, your strengths, your talents, how you instinctively do some things, all of a sudden you're better prepared to meet changes. And you also have contingency plans in place so that you know when to quit and when not to quit. I mean, you get to a certain point where you can do things internally, and then you have to decide, all right, am I just putting up with nonsense that's going to make me happy, or do I have to go somewhere else and do something?
Yeah. Now, because finances are important, right? So it's not recommended to up and leave your job, without any backup plan. So how important is the financial planning process in your whole life? Do you touch on that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the things that we learned and we implemented for younger people in our financial planning was something we called an opportunity fund. It's great to save for retirement, and you have to do this. Don't get me wrong. Saving for retirement is very, very important.
Yes.
But diverting some money sometime to something that you could use sooner can be valuable too. So I can think right now of one young attorney down in Washington, D.C. He now has $100,000 in his opportunity fund.
Wow.
And that gives him the opportunity that if he gets fed up, guess what? He can take off for 6, 7, 8 months, have the money in the bank, be able to follow the threads where he wants to go. So
you teach people how to do this.
Absolutely. And we do a lot, by the way, with guilt-free spending, cookie jars, and other things.
Tell me about you and your wife's cookie jars.
Oh, okay. So when Sandy and I worked on our retirement, we planned on retiring at 65 like everybody else. And we realized that one of the things that was really important was to make sure we were never, ever going to be dependent on somebody else for support. But we found out that didn't take much money. We live off of $50,000, $60,000 a year when it comes down to basics.
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't take a lot. Now, that's not a very fun life. So we have a guilt-free spending cookie jar that allows us to spend much, much more than that.
Yeah.
But we know when we take money out of our guilt-free spending cookie jar, it doesn't impact our basic security. That's set aside. The other thing that we've done is we both work. And the difference is we've both figured out how to work in jobs that we love, doing things we love to do. So work is no longer work. But guess what? Work is the wild card that can make the impossible possible for anybody, because it allows you to create money when you need to. And we found we have to have a very expansive life. Every time we go somewhere, there's someplace else that looms up that we want to go to. Every time we do something, it's the same thing. And I think you're finding that in your life too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have children?
No children.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about this book.
Well, The Luckiest Guy in the World was an attempt to start this. And that was written probably 4 years ago. And when we were just starting to formulate this, now we had been doing things for clients for 20 years before, but we never thought really about the luckiest guy in the world as a concept. And so it's a storybook. And it's a story about some of the things that people did to break through.
Yeah.
Okay?
Testimonials.
In a way. And so I can think of one client who's a doctor who was working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. He couldn't get a break. His wife was getting frustrated with him because she wanted to do other things. And in fact, he loved his work, but we finally got to the point where he started working 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and finally 5 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And he found a system where he was able to break the mold and start to bring into his life the things that were important other than work, and keep work and play so that he got the best of both.
Yeah. And you teach people how to do this,
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So when we come back, I really want to learn more about your courses, all right? So I know you have a couple of different options. So we're going to take a break. When we get back, I want you to be ready to talk about those courses and what the different ones are and who might consider taking some of those courses.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Entrepreneur State of Mind. I'm here with the luckiest guy in the world, Ray Lowe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And here we are back now. We're going to talk about what you have to offer your clients. And hey, you really are the luckiest guy in the world. This guy travels, he swims competitively. You're a photographer now. I mean, at the age of 75, doing things that most people are sitting in their house watching, I don't know, reruns of The Honeymooners, right? Not you.
Well, let me tell you one quick story that I think is really important. I was at the National Senior Games in Birmingham, Alabama last year in June, and I went to do my swimming thing. But after I was done, I got a chance to wander around a little bit, and I met John, and John was notable because John won 6 medals, 5 of them gold, and it's the silver that's important. John competed in the 100 to 104 age group.
In swimming?
No.
Oh.
What he did was he threw the shot put, the discus, the hammer throw. I can't even lift a shot put at my age. And the interesting thing was at 103, he lost one event to a crummy 101-year-old upstart who beat him in one. So one of the things that we find is the world is changing. You know, we're starting to see at these competitive events lots of swimmers and athletes in their 90s and their hundreds. I had a gentleman that did a client event for me a while ago. He interviewed 100 people over the age of 100. You know, so the new 70 now is not an old place to be.
Right.
And so it's time to get into this stuff and go from there.
Yes, but you need to be taught. I really believe you need to be taught. So I want to know about your courses. How
Right.
many courses are there that people can take?
At the current time, we have 5 courses, and they're carefully structured and designed. The first thing we learn that people have to do is to take some time to discover who they are. You know, we can take gambles and change jobs and do all kinds of different things, but if we do that without really understanding what we're about, we're going to wind up with some false leads again. We're going to go places that we don't want to go. And I remember, I'm an engineer by training. I'm an electrical engineer, and I no more should ever have been an electrical engineer, except I could do math. All right. So once you know what your kind of DNA is, and we explore something that we call unique ability and something we call PEP. And PEP is passion, excellence, and perceived value. It's how do you take what you want to do, what you're really excited about doing, couple it with what you're good at doing, your talents. And don't confuse talents with skills. It's one of the traps that people get into a lot. You know, we get paid because we're good at doing something, but it may not be the strengths that we really have that they're based on. All right?
I'm feeling you right now. I know.
So we have 2 courses devoted to this, and my feeling is if you don't take the time to discover who you are, you're not going to get out of this trap. You're not going to get moving.
Right.
The third course is really the exciting one because we start mapping jobs at that point. You start being able to go back and say, what did I really like about this last job I had and the one before that, and what didn't I like? And now you start applying who you are and saying, why didn't I like that? What was wrong? And suddenly patterns start to come up and to the point where we're able to start to map out the ideal job.
Now, has anyone ever come out of his assessments indicating they should be an entrepreneur?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And in fact, we just had a gentleman that I've been working with for 3 years, okay, working with a big company, and he was trapped. He was making enough money he couldn't get out. Hated it. A lot of the same reasons that you were talking about. All of a sudden, he made the leap, and he started his own business, and it's a fledgling new business right now, but there's no way this guy is going to fail.
Right.
He knows instinctively what he's good at, he knows how to do it now, and he's going to make it happen.
Yes, and that's important too, even when you're thinking about going into entrepreneurship, the type of business that you want to own, you know, to take your courses first to kind of educate yourself on what you should and shouldn't be going for is another one. Should I be buying a franchise? Should I be going to real estate? Should I be in direct marketing? What should I do? It's important. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
One of the assessments that we have in there is an entrepreneurial assessment,
Okay.
by the way. And what you find a lot of times is that I believe anybody can be an entrepreneur. The question is you may have to supplement your skills and your thinking with other people, though. And if you understand what those are, then you can choose wisely and know what you're going to be good at and where you're going to need help.
Right, right.
So sometimes it's not just coaching, it's getting the right team together too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How long would it take me to go through all 5 of your courses, approximately?
Well, the courses are short. You know, you can get through the first 2 in maybe 4 or 5 hours each.
Okay.
The next one after you do your mapping of your job is we actually map play. You know, do you have a play plan? I want to say play pen, and I got to be careful here.
I don't.
And most people don't, but you know, your time is so valuable, and one of the things we find, especially with people thinking about retiring, is how do you lock in that time? So a quick story. I have 2 people in my development that are acquaintances. They're not friends. And the reason that they retired and moved into our over 55 community was so they could be closer to their grandchildren. And they were thinking it would be wonderful to spend Tuesday and Thursday from 9 to 12 with their grandchildren. Well, they never explained that to their kids. They're 6-day-a-week babysitters at this point in time. And their plan is gone. So their time has been stolen from them,
Yes.
and it's going to be stolen from you unless you know where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody with a plan is always going to win over somebody
Yeah.
without a plan.
And you're going to help people create that plan.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're running out of time, and I want to end with the fact that you're doing things in your life that are really fun. At your age, like I said, most people aren't doing what you're doing. You're a photographer.
I am.
Okay, so we've got a couple of things clips that I want to put up and show. One of them is the penguin. You took a picture of the penguin, right?
That's the penguin on the hill, and you got to be able to walk up to see the penguin, right?
Was that in Antarctica? There it is.
That
up
was
there.
in Antarctica.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, we're going to put up another one. And this one, tell us about, where was that taken?
That one was in Egypt.
I guess.
And that was a statue that would have been underwater when they built the Aswan Dam, and they actually moved that. They're in that's like 60 meters high.
Wow, super cool.
And-
Want to put another one up there? Is there one more? Oh, there it is.
This is one of my favorite. Now this
No,
guy
that's not a tiger.
This guy was 50 feet above my head, and the guide told me that we were with that it's okay to go up and take the picture because he noticed that there was a little blood on his snout. He had eaten.
Oh, okay. I don't know, Ray. I don't know if I would have done that.
Well, you know, when
It
you
might
do
not be
these,
full.
you don't have to be the fastest person. You just have to be faster than the next person next to
Okay.
you. All right?
Okay. All right. Got it.
So it works.
Good. So you're able to enjoy all these things now because you're the luckiest guy in the world and you're teaching other people how to do that. But I want to make sure people know how they can connect with you and see some of your courses and kind of get an intro. So if you don't mind, look into that camera there and tell people where to find you, Ray.
Okay. Well, you can find us at theluckiestguyintheworld.com. You know, come visit our website. We have a series of events. We have some webinars that we do periodically. We invite you to come and learn more about what we do. Our courses are listed there, and there's a lot of exciting stuff going on. So, Krista, thank you for having us here,
so much.
and it's been a lot of fun.
One of my mottos is, it's never too late to change, right? Does that fall into your wheelhouse there?
Oh, and there's never an end to the change.
No.
Never an end to the change.
I'm so happy that I met you, and I'm definitely going to visit theluckiestguyintheworld.com, and make sure you do that too. And we will be right back with Casey Price's Everyday Elder Care. Thanks for joining.